I didn't expect my life to tilt on a Tuesday morning, of all things, the kind that smells like burnt coffee and printer toner. The title people slap on stories like this makes it sound loud and reckless. Mine started quietly, too quietly, with a mop bucket squeaking down a hallway, and me realizing I'd been staring at the same email for 10 minutes without reading a word. I'm a single dad, a CEO by accident more than ambition, and most days I live in a tight grid of schedules, daycare drop-offs, investor calls, microwave dinners after bedtime. Romance doesn't fit neatly into that grid. Neither does surprise. But that morning, in our office building that always felt too clean to be human, something shifted. She was new, or maybe I'd just never really seen her before. Mid-40s, easy posture, hair pulled back without fuss. The cleaner. She moved through the floor with the confidence of someone who knew exactly where she belonged, like the place adjusted around her instead of the other way around. She hummed while she worked. Not a tune I recognized. Just sound, low and steady, like she was reminding herself she was there. I apologized when I nearly collided with her cart outside the conference room. Over-apologized, actually. She smiled, not the polite kind you give strangers, but a measured one, like she was deciding something. "You're fine," she said. Her voice had weight to it. "Calm. Happens." I noticed then the ring-shaped dent on her finger where jewelry used to be. The scuff on her shoe toe. The way she looked at me directly, without rushing, without shrinking. Most people did one or the other when they realized who I was. Later, during a budget meeting that dragged past lunch, the AC sputtered and died. People complained. Someone joked about calling facilities. I slipped out to check on my phone and found her kneeling by a vent, sleeves rolled up, hands dusty. "It gets like this," she said before I could ask. "Give it a minute." I held the door open while she finished. Didn't know why, just did. When the air kicked back on, she stood, brushed her hands together, and laughed, short, surprised, like she hadn't meant to. "See," she said, "I wanted to say something clever. Something light." Instead, I nodded, too aware of how close we were standing. The hallway felt narrow. The fluorescent lights hummed louder than before. Over the next week, she became part of the background of my days. Or maybe I became aware of the background for the first time. She left a sticky note on my desk once. "Moved your bag." Almost tripped. "Sorry," with a tiny square smile drawn in the corner. Another time, she brought my dropped file folder back, pages neatly aligned, as if she'd taken a moment to care. We talked in fragments. Half sentences. Weather. My kid's toy dinosaur she found under a chair and placed on my desk without comment. Her name, said once, soft, and then lost under the noise of the office. There was an afternoon rainstorm, sudden and loud. She stood by the window, watching it hit the glass, arms folded. I asked if she needed an umbrella. She shook her head. "I like walking in it," she said. Then, after a pause, "Feels honest." The elevator dinged. Someone called my name. She stepped back, already turning away, but not before our eyes met again. Too long. Just long enough to feel the question neither of us asked. That night, after my son fell asleep, I lay awake replaying the sound of her laugh in the hallway, the way she'd said "see," like she was letting me in on something small and private. I still don't know why that moment stayed with me. I only know it did. It was late, past normal office hours. One of those evenings where the building empties out and the silence starts echoing your own thoughts back at you. I was still at my desk, jacket off, sleeves rolled up, pretending I wasn't counting the minutes until I could go home. The lights on my floor were dimmed automatically, half on, half asleep. I heard the cart before I saw her. The wheels squeaked the same way they always did, a sound I'd started to recognize without realizing it. She paused when she saw me, like she was deciding whether to come back later. "I can move," I said too quickly. "If I'm in the way." "You're not," she replied. But she didn't smile this time. I stood anyway. Didn't know what else to do. She worked around my desk in careful steps, wiping, straightening, her movements efficient but slower than usual. I noticed her hands first, dry, faintly red around the knuckles. Tired hands. Hands that had done the same work for years. "You work late a lot," she said, not looking at me. "Single dad," I answered. It slipped out before I thought about it. Night's the only quiet time. She paused, just for a second, then nodded. Yeah, quiet's expensive. I didn't know what that meant, but it felt like something she'd learned the hard way. I helped her lift a box that had been pushed against the wall, old files no one had touched in years. When our fingers brushed, she pulled back immediately, like she'd touched something hot. Her laugh followed a moment later, quick and dismissive. Sorry, I'm clumsy tonight. You're not, I said, too softly. She gave me a look then. Not sharp, not warm either. Guarded, like she'd stepped closer to a line she already knew the shape of. We worked without talking for a while. Just the sound of the cloth against wood, the hum of the building settling. I noticed the way she shifted her weight when she stood too long. The faint crease between her brows that never fully relaxed. She exhaled slowly, like she was counting something down inside herself. You don't have to help, she said finally. It's my job. I know, I said. I just didn't feel like sitting. That made her smile. Small, tired, real. She leaned against the desk for a moment, rubbing her wrist. I pretended not to stare, but I caught the way her shoulders dropped, just slightly, like she'd forgotten to hold herself together for a second. Long day? I asked. She hesitated. The pause stretched. Then she shrugged. They usually are. There was more there. I could hear it in what she didn't say. I didn't push. I just nodded, matching her distance. When she finished, she grabbed her jacket and slung it over her arm. We walked toward the elevator together, footsteps out of sync. The doors opened. She stepped in first, then stopped. You don't need to stay late every night, she said, eyes on the floor numbers lighting up. It catches up to you. So does leaving too early, I replied, before I could stop myself. She looked at me then. Really looked. The elevator hummed between floors, suspended. For a second, neither of us moved. The storm started without asking permission. Rain slammed against the windows like it had somewhere important to be, and the building answered with a flicker of lights and a low, uneasy hum. Most of the staff had already left. I should have too. My son was with my sister that night. Last-minute help, last-minute freedom I didn't know what to do with. She was still there. The power blinked once, twice, then settled into a dim emergency glow. I found her in the break area, standing by the vending machine, arms crossed, staring at nothing. Her cart sat abandoned near the door. Looks like we're stuck for a bit, I said. She turned, startled, then relaxed when she saw it was me. Figures. We sat at opposite ends of the table at first. Cold coffee, a half-eaten packet of crackers between us. The rain filled the space where conversation usually went. My kid hates storms, I said, not sure why. Thinks they're angry. She smiled at that. This time it reached her eyes. They are, she said. Just not at us. Her phone buzzed on the table. She looked at the screen and immediately turned it face down. Too quickly. Her jaw tightened. I noticed the way her fingers curled around the edge of the table like she needed something solid. You okay? I asked. She hesitated. The rain got louder. Yeah, just someone who doesn't understand timing. I didn't ask who. I didn't need to. The silence said enough. The lights flickered again. She stood abruptly. I should check the supply room. Make sure nothing flooded. I'll come, I said. The hallway was darker than before, lit only by the red exit signs. The air smelled like wet concrete and lemon cleaner. We walked close, not touching, but close enough to feel each other's movement. When the thunder cracked overhead, she stopped short. I almost ran into her. Sorry, she said, breath uneven. It's okay. Too quiet. Too close. I became painfully aware of her shoulder near my chest, the warmth of her arm through her sleeve. She shifted, like she was deciding whether to step away or stay. I don't usually, she stopped. Swallowed. This job, people think it's invisible. Some days I let them. I waited. Every part of me leaned forward, but I stayed still. I see you, I said. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just true. She looked at me then, something unguarded flashing across her face. Surprise, maybe. Or relief. Her hand lifted, then dropped back to her side like she'd caught herself mid-thought. Her phone rang again. She didn't ignore it this time. Answered with a tired, practiced hello. I turned away, giving her privacy I didn't want to give. The call was short. When she hung up, Her shoulders sagged. I should go, she said, before the rain gets worse. I can walk you to your car, I offered. She nodded. At the entrance, the rain slowed to a steady fall. She stood there, keys in hand, not moving. For a moment, it felt like the world was holding its breath. She looked at me, lips parted, like she was about to say something she'd already rehearsed and decided against. I stepped closer. She didn't step back. And then the door behind us opened. The door swung shut again, just as quickly. A delivery guy muttered an apology and disappeared into the rain. The moment snapped, but not cleanly. Something stayed stretched between us, thin and humming. She exhaled like she'd been holding it too long. This can't keep feeling like this, she said. I didn't pretend not to know what she meant. My throat tightened anyway. Like what? She looked at me then, really looked. Not through me, not past me, at me. Her eyes were tired in a way sleep wouldn't fix. Like every quiet moment is louder than it should be, she said. Like I have to rehearse being normal around you. The rain ticked against the glass. Somewhere upstairs, a light buzzed and went out. I don't want to make things complicated, I said. It sounded weak even to me. She smiled, but there was no humor in it. They already are. We stood there, neither of us moving toward the door, neither of us reaching out. The space between us felt deliberate now. Chosen. I come here to work, she continued, slower. To disappear into something simple. Floors get dirty. You clean them. End of story. She paused. And then you started noticing. I didn't mean to, I said. I know. She nodded. That's the problem. I wanted to tell her that noticing wasn't a choice. That it happened the same way storms did. Quiet at first. Then everywhere. Instead, I stayed quiet. Let her finish. She folded her arms, then dropped them again, like she couldn't find a position that fit. People already have ideas. About me. About why I'm here. I don't need new ones. They won't come from me, I said. Too fast. That's not how it works, she replied gently. Intent doesn't stop impact. Another silence. This one heavier. I watched her hands, the way her fingers pressed together like she was grounding herself. I wondered how many conversations she'd had like this in her life. How many times she'd had to be the one to name the thing everyone else avoided. What do you want me to do? I asked. She didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was lower. I want to stop feeling like I'm standing on the edge of something I didn't agree to step toward. I nodded. Okay. The word felt like letting go of a railing. She searched my face, maybe looking for resistance. For persuasion. For something easier to say no to. I gave her none of it. Okay. I repeated. We can reset. She closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, there was something wet there she pretended wasn't. That's not what I meant, she said. I frowned. Then what did you mean? She stepped back, closer to the door now. The rain had slowed to a mist. I meant, she said carefully, that I don't know how to turn this off without pretending it never mattered. The words landed harder than anything else she'd said. She reached for the handle, paused, then looked at me one last time. I need you to understand, she said quietly, that if this keeps going, someone gets hurt. And it won't be you. It didn't happen in a dramatic way. No confrontation. No tears in the rain. It happened 3 days later, in the most ordinary moment possible. I was leaving early for once. My sister had called, said my son was asking for me in that quiet way kids do when they're pretending not to. I cut through the maintenance corridor instead of the main hall, keys already in my hand, head down. Her cart was parked there. Know her. On the top shelf, taped to the metal frame, was a photo. It had slipped halfway loose, one corner peeling. I would have walked past it if the face in it hadn't stopped me. A younger version of her, laughing, head tilted back. Beside her stood a man about my age, maybe younger than me now, his arms slung around her shoulders like it belonged there. They looked easy, like they hadn't learned caution yet. I shouldn't have looked. I knew that. But I did. Don't, she said behind me. I turned. She wasn't angry, just tired. More than usual. I forgot to take it down, she added, stepping closer and gently peeling the tape free. She stared at the photo for a second too long before sliding it into her pocket. I'm sorry, I said. I didn't mean to. It's fine. She shook her head. You were going to see it eventually. Eventually. The words sat heavy between us. We stood there, the corridor humming softly. Somewhere, a phone rang and stopped. "He died," she said suddenly. The words were plain. No build-up. No protection. I didn't say anything. I didn't ask how, or when, or why she still carried the photo. I waited. 8 years ago, she continued. Car accident. One night. That's all it took. She swallowed. I spent a long time being angry at myself for surviving something I wasn't supposed to survive alone. I felt something shift in my chest. Not jealousy. Not relief. Something heavier. "I'm sorry," I said. "I know," she replied. And for the first time, it sounded like she meant it. She leaned back against the wall, arms folded, not defensive now, just holding herself together. "You don't just remind me of him," she said, almost reluctantly. "That would be easier. You remind me of who I was before I learned how careful I had to be." The corridor felt smaller. "That's not fair to you," she added. "Or to me. I never asked you to be anything," I said quietly. She nodded. "That's what scares me." Her phone buzzed in her hand. A voicemail notification. She didn't listen to it. Just stared at the screen until it went dark again. "I should go," she said. I didn't stop her. Didn't reach out. Didn't say her name. She took 2 steps, then paused. "For what it's worth," she said, not turning around. "This wasn't a mistake." Then she walked away, leaving the air changed, like something had cracked open without making a sound. It didn't resolve the way movies promise it will. There was no grand decision. No crossing of a line that changed everything in one breath. Just a slow evening, weeks later, when the building felt less like a workplace and more like a place that had watched too much and decided to stay quiet. I stayed late again. Not to wait for her. At least that's what I told myself. But because going home felt unfinished. My son was asleep when I checked my phone. The apartment would be dark. Empty in that specific way that only happens when you're meant to sit with your thoughts. She was in the supply room, inventory clipboard in hand, glasses perched low on her nose. I hadn't seen her wear them before. It startled me more than it should have. "You're back to nights," she said, not looking up. "Only sometimes." She nodded, like that answer fit into a shape she already knew. We didn't mention the corridor, or the photo, or the way things had shifted without asking permission. I helped her carry a box. She didn't object this time. Our steps fell into rhythm without effort. That scared me a little. In the break area, she sat instead of standing. That was new too. She rubbed her thumb along the edge of the table, a small, unconscious movement. "I don't think this goes away," she said finally. I waited. Let her have the space. "Not the feeling," she clarified. "The awareness. You don't forget someone once they've landed." I nodded. I tried. That earned a quiet huff of a laugh. "Me too." We sat there, shoulder to shoulder, but not touching. The room smelled faintly of disinfectant and old paper. Outside, the city moved on without us. "I'm not asking you for anything," she said. "I can't. I just needed you to know that I'm not pretending anymore." "I'm not either," I replied. She turned then. Really turned. Her eyes searched my face like she was checking for exits, for conditions. I didn't give her any. "I don't want to be saved," she said softly. "I know," I answered. "I don't want to save you." That seemed to settle something. Her hand rested on the table between us, close enough to notice the faint scar near her knuckle. I didn't reach for it. Not yet. When she moved, it was deliberate, her fingers brushing mine, light, almost testing. Neither of us pulled away. She exhaled, slow and steady, and leaned her forehead against my shoulder. Just for a moment. The weight of it surprised me. Not heavy, trusting. We stayed like that, listening to the building breathe. When she straightened, she squeezed my hand once, brief, grounding. "We'll be careful," she said. "Yes," I replied. Not because it was safe, because it was honest. I'm telling this from a distance now, not because it ended badly, but because some things only make sense once they've settled into your bones. When I look back, I don't think about the title people would give it. I think about the quiet, about how my days stopped feeling like a series of compartments. Work here, father there, everything else pushed to the margins. Something softened. Not dramatically, just enough to let air in. We never labeled what happened between us. That mattered. What changed wasn't our situation so much as the way we stood inside it. I stopped mistaking attention for urgency. Stopped assuming that wanting something meant I had to reach for it immediately or lose it forever. I learned that restraint isn't absence, it's presence with boundaries. She changed too, though she'd never say it like that. She started taking breaks instead of powering through them. Let herself sit. Let herself be seen without apologizing for it. She didn't disappear into her work as much. Didn't rush past the moments that asked her to pause. And love, if that's what it was, stopped looking like a collision. It looked more like alignment. Two people deciding, quietly and repeatedly, not to look away. There were no promises that stretched too far into the future. No rewriting of history. We didn't pretend timing didn't matter or that the world would bend for us. We just stopped lying to ourselves about what we felt when we shared space. When we sat in silence and didn't need to fill it. When a hand rested near another and didn't have to prove anything. I think that's what surprised me most. How something so careful could feel so real. Sometimes I still notice small things the way I did back then. The sound of rain against glass, a light left on too late, the way tired hands move with purpose. I don't chase those moments anymore. I let them come. I let them go. What I learned is this. Love doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just asks you to pay attention, to slow down, to choose honesty over impulse, to understand that connection doesn't have to consume you to change you. And it did change me. In the best, quietest way. If this story made you feel something, let me know in the comments. Would you want more stories like this?